So, welcome to this video about our 2016 NeuroImage paper, in which we presented a method for model selection between first-level fMRI models. So, in fMRI data analysis, we usually do voxel-wise time series analysis, which means that we take all the scans from a single subject after pre-processing, and we focus on a single voxel, extract the time series from this voxel, which is called the bold signal, and perform statistical analysis. This is then repeated for all the voxels to come up with those nice maps. Statistical analysis is usually performed using the general linear model, or the GLM, in which the bold signal is decomposed into variation coming from experimental conditions and potential confounds, which are collectively referred to as the design matrix X, weighted by some regression coefficients, plus some noise, which is always in the data and which we cannot decompose using our model. Now, the problem with this is that for any given fMRI data set, there's always many plausible GLMs that we can fit. Differing, for example, in the timing of the regressors, the inclusion of events of no interest, parametric modulators, among other aspects. So we used Bayesian model selection to solve this problem. This means we calculate the marginal likelihood for the GLM, that is the probability of seeing the data given only the model, regardless of particular parameter values. Because we typically don't have prior knowledge about the model parameters in fMRI, we here use a cross-validated version called the cross-validated log model evidence, or cvLME, as our model quality criterion. So in cross-validated Bayesian model selection, the data from a single subject are analyzed using different models, and we calculate the cvLME for each model and voxel in the brain. And given that this has been done for all the models applied to all subjects, we use a population proportion model called random effects BMS to come up with voxel-wise model frequencies. And the idea would, of course, be to always use that model which is most frequent in the population, or which is most often selected as the winning model in most subjects. We use a visual fMRI dataset for empirical validation. So in this experiment, subjects were looking at such a grid of bars, and in each trial, one bar on the left and one bar on the right were rotated relative to the others by 0, 30, 60, or 90 degrees. So this gives a 4x4 categorical design. And the most straightforward way to model this would be a categorical GLM with 16 regressors, one per condition. However, one can also set up a parametric model in which we have one regressor for all orientation events and two parametric modulators for orientation contrast on the left and on the right side. Here we also implemented a nonlinear parametric GLM in which we used a saturating function of orientation contrast as the modulator variable, because this was more compatible with behavioral pretests prior to that study. If we only look at the categorical GLM and the linear parametric model, these two models are containing the same information, namely at which point in time which orientation contrasts on the left and right side were active. But they are representing this information in different ways. So while the categorical GLM is almost always more accurate than the parametric GLM, it can fit more diverse activation patterns. It is also almost always more complex than the parametric model because it has much more regressors. So this in sum then leads the log model evidence to most often favor the more parsimonious parametric model in this case. So if we compare the categorical GLMs against the parametric models seen as a model family, we find overwhelming evidence for parametric processing almost all over the brain. And if we compare the two parametric models against each other, we find that most voxels prefer the nonlinear parametric model. So we then only looked at the orientation sensitive region V4, here shown as a white overlay, and compared different versions of the nonlinear parametric model. And this way we found that modeling only the right orientation contrast makes a better model in left V4, and modeling only the left orientation contrast makes a better model in right V4. So in other words, we are demonstrating the contralateral nature of visual processing in the human brain using model selection. So this is nice empirical validation. And if you want to know more, please click on the link in the description to access a free PDF of the paper. Thank you very much.